Hello, welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today, oh man, it's like the tables are flipped. Like there's all this like flipping and reversing going on at the moment. Like I was a guest on this podcast, and I used to be in lockdown, and now he's my guest, and he's in lockdown. It's just like opposite land today. But let's get him in here. Matt Mohl, 3 Men and a Baby Yoda Podcast. How's it going, mate?
Hello from the bizarro world. How are you, mate?
All right. How you doing up there in Sydney?
We are doing not bad. I mean, can't complain. I could complain. It's actually, week 6 of lockdown, but
lockdown sucks. let's not muck around.
It does suck in that you have to spend an inordinate amount of time with your significant others that you're probably not used to. And yes, you got to learn the rules of the house, and suddenly you're no longer the master of your domain.
New rules.
You're the second-class citizen of the house.
Yeah, well, we had a snap lockdown in Melbourne, and we had 2 weeks, and we've been out for a little bit now, and so we've got our freedom back. But the difference that we had this time around we hadn't had before was homeschool. We'd never had homeschooling, and that was something different. Just to throw it in, it wasn't really prepared for homeschool. So luckily your little one isn't quite at homeschool level yet, but. Hopefully, when your kid, your baby's brand new, hopefully we won't still be having lockdowns at the time your kid's ready for school.
Mate, if we're still doing lockdowns in 4 years' time,
you're checking 4 years. You're like,
I'm going to look 50.
Lockdowns at 4 years of 4 years and 6 months of the Sydney lockdown here, and still haven't decided on masks outside and whether you can. And Bunnings are still open.
Gladys will be like, it's just a few more weeks. Just hang in there.
Gladys is saying, they keep voting her in. She's won 3 elections, but for some reason, it just can't quite. The vaccination's coming next week, everybody. Don't worry. They keep promising the vaccination's coming in 4 years.
Well, I mean, as I told you earlier, when you said, are you free tonight? I said, mate, I'm free every night, let's be honest. But I've just had I got the call up for Pfizer. One of my doctor mates said, look, if you can make it to Kogarah at 4 p.m., I can get you in, and then and if your wife wants to come, and if your friend wants to come, just get him in. I ended up bringing 7 people, so I may have extended the friendship there. But
wow,
I took my wife, I took my my associate from work, so they're probably the 2 women that I can't live without in this world. And then my mate and his wife came, who are like our number one sort of baby couple, so we can't live without them. And then one of my mates from work as well, so we just rocked up.
It's like the Sweet Connect. It's some sort of like weird backyard deal going on here. Did it come out of like a garbage bag or something? You're just like, yeah. Did you have it in bulk? Did you have like a big gulp of Pfizer? Like what 7-Eleven, like a big cup of it? And he's like, everyone just come around.
One of those trench coats with like the syringes in the thing that opens it up, just jabs. No.
It's like, that's horse tranquilizer. Right? Oh, no, that Pfizer's in the other side. Oh, sorry about that. I had my second shot the other day, and my partner Kat, she had her second one 2 days ago, and we both got off pretty light. I didn't get sick at all. She was a little bit unwell. She's a bit of a fainter. They put her in the fainters section when she had it, but she just had to sit there for a bit. But she wasn't I had a few mates who got really knocked around and were crook, and especially on the second one. So it was good. And it's sort of like I remember when I was on your podcast, it was just after all the the celebration stuff had gone down, and I was like ranting about we're never going to get these vaccines. I don't know this. I don't know this. I don't know these times. Like, what's going on? And at least now they've gone. There's going to be some 80%. I think they said 80%. The borders will be open. Vaccination rates. There'll be no quarantining. All that kind of stuff. So they've got like digital passports and vaccination status in passports. So it's looking. Things are looking up.
Mate, you're doing everything you can to get to Star Wars Celebration. I'm just trying to get to the ForceCon in October in Melbourne. I'm finally invited to a panel, and I'm like, yes! And
I've made it.
This lockdown occurs, and R1 seems to be the one that just doesn't. It's a never-ending story. Lockdown that never ends.
When's that? October. Yeah, God, you'd be pretty annoyed if you weren't. At least you'll be fully vaccinated by then. So that might be the difference. You know what I mean? Like it might be I can't speak for the other boy. You got youngins in your crew though, so they might get stuck on the border.
I know. Well, like that's right. I'm happy to go alone.
Alone suckers.
We'll see, mate. It'll be just a matter of if we can at the time, and if we can, we can. But
yeah,
just take each day as it comes, I guess.
Yeah, Dale, our buddy Dale, who's one of the organisers there, he's been emailing me a few things. So I'll be on a couple of panels, and I'll be doing an interview, at least one interview, I think. And yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good. I'll just be looking forward just to be able to do stuff, nothing else.
I know. We've been texting back and forth a bit, like because he reached out to me. He said you mentioned it, and I think the last thing I sent him was like the Kermit meme, looking out the window and just just going, wanting to go to Force 5, but currently in lockdown.
Yeah.
So we're just going to play it by ear, I think.
Yeah, well, Celebration, it really does feel closer. I think once I got the vaccination, because at the time when I was on your pod, even though that wasn't long ago, like I wasn't vaccinated, and I realistically thought it would be Christmas, before we'd get it. And now they reckon that there'll be enough for everybody by Christmas. So that sort of means that when is it, in May? Is it in May now? Yeah. So that's still 4 or 5 months. Like if they can't get it, if everybody can get it by Christmas, and in 5 months they can't get their shit together enough to have everybody getting it, like surely.
Well, it seems like all they ever did was that. At the time, fast forward go back 2 months, there was nothing. Like Australia was like the haven of the world. Like all the movie stars were like, let's be here. It's the best place on earth. And vaccinations were like, nah, we don't need those. We're good. And then, the variant comes, and all of a sudden, got to take whatever you can, inject whatever you can into your bloodstream, because the advice has changed and we're in lockdown. You want to get out of lockdown, and I just feel great knowing that I got some form of defense. Like someone said to me the other day, it was like it's like having like the shield around Endor. You've got that now, and only Han Solo and Captain Rex can go in and deactivate that shield.
That's not bad, actually. I never really thought about that. Yeah, I always laugh at that bit whenever I watch Return of the Jedi. It's like like they sort of he's like give me the charge, and he puts the charge on, and you sort of like, because they're cutting between the Florentine bit, and they do the cut of Luke and Darth Vader fighting, and then like they cut to Han. He's running from the bunker, and he runs about 20 feet behind a bush, and you see the bunker explode, and the explosion is like a wide shot, and it's about a 500-meter explosion. And he's just looking over, he's like just there. He's like, it all went out that way, it didn't go out the back door, it all went out the top of the thing.
I always thought, I was like, what is in those charges? Like that was just that explosion was so over the top. And you can also sort of see like the reflection of like the glass or something, whatever it is, like the security preventions from that flame to their own protect. But yeah, it's
I saw something today. I was, what did I see online? Steele had tweeted something. He was watching the Star Wars Revisited cut. Do you know anything about the Star Wars Revisited cut?
No, I've been seeing his tweets and just wondering.
So effectively, some dude, probably about 10 years ago, he basically like he did a bunch of work to the Blu-rays of Star Wars that came out. I think primarily Star Wars, and I think he color corrected some of it so it was closer to like the original release stuff and hadn't had the colors jacked up like they were in the DVD.
Yep.
But then he started like flipping shots, and then he started like adding his own special effects and things. So he was adding like explosions and more TIE fighters and all this kind of stuff. I haven't watched it all. I've seen some YouTube clips, but anyway,
okay.
Steele was watching it, and he's just like, this is quite an interesting way to see it. And I sort of, a few people were pinging like, where do I get this from? Anyway, he put a link in, and I tracked the link down and downloaded a copy of it. And I was just sort of quickly flicking through it today just to see if it had worked and stuff. And I'm 99% sure this isn't something that he's put in, but I'd never noticed it before in Star Wars. There's a bit, when they go to Mos Eisley and they're all in the land speeder, and it's like Obi-Wan, Luke, and 3PO there, and like Artoo's just like sitting on the back. He's kind of like just lying down on the back. Like a big pile of shit. But there's a shot when they pull up, well, I've never noticed this before, and for whatever reason, they pull up at the cantina, and Luke's like, "You think we'll ever find a pilot in here?" And he's like, "Oh, best Starfighter. This place could be a rough." If you look in the background for a split second, you can see R2 trying to shimmy himself off the back of the speeder. Oh, really? I've never seen it before, and I'm going, "That's not new. That dude hasn't just done that." Like 3PO slightly makes his way to the back of the speeder. And then you can just see R2 very quickly, like do a little shimmy, like he's trying to wiggle himself, like off the back of the speeder to fall down.
And what Kenny Baker was doing that, or did this guy add it?
I don't know. I've got to go and like if I get time tonight, I might just jump on Disney Plus or something, and I'll just quickly fast forward and see if I can find the scene or whatever. Like I could probably find the scene, and I'm 99% sure because it doesn't. Like it just seems like why would you bother doing that? It's so in the background somewhere. Are you like you've got your phone out now? Are you actually trying to find it?
I'm just going to try and scroll to that very second.
See if you scroll to that.
I've got a photographic memory, so like that's how I win all my Star Wars trivia comps and playing the Star Wars card. You know, remember the Star Wars customizable card game?
I know of it, but yeah, I'm not great at trivia. I'm okay, but then like you know, there's freaks of nature. You know, that sort of thing about Star Wars trivia. Like if I went to a Star Wars trivia night at a pub down the road from my house, I probably do pretty well. But when you start mixing in the Star Wars circles that we mix in, you know, like I was on, you know, Star Wars Explained the other day on their live thing with Molly and Alex, and they're just, you know, absolute freaks of nature, the both of them. And, you know, Laura from Force Toast as well, she's a freak of nature. And it's just, but it's also the thing that like, oh, here we go. Can you see it? Just wait.
Yeah,
did you see it?
He's shimmying.
He did. He shimmied.
He shimmied.
Holy shit! I've never. Isn't that amazing? That movie I must have watched hundreds of times. I've never noticed that before.
How do you reckon they did that as well? They probably got some try pulling him or something.
Well, he's probably. Which is the weird thing is that means that Kenny Baker was in the R2 on the back of the thing, most likely.
Or maybe they just put him on there for that shot.
I hope so. I mean, you hear all those stories that they're like, yeah, I think that's the story that Kenny Baker told a million times at all the conventions was like, oh, you know, they left me in the R2 thing, and they all went to the pub, and you know, it got very hot in there, and I nearly died of like got cooked alive, like he was like in a tin of beans on a campfire or something.
Oh man, that'd be good to get. I would love to get some of that original crew and just hear those stories.
There's not many of them left now, you know, like, you know, all those sort of the big convention people who would go, you know, like Kenny Baker's not around anymore. Peter Mayhew's not around anymore. David Prowse I think David Prowse got banned from a lot of conventions, but you know, they were sort of the regulars and stuff, you know. Billy D still, you know, he was at Celebration. I don't know whether he still does the other conventions and things, but a lot of that old guard, you know, there's not going to be many of them left. There is going to be a day where they're not going to be around anymore.
I know. It's going to be when the day comes where Mark Hamill or Harrison Ford, you know, touch wood.
Or George Lucas, for that matter.
That's going to be a very, very, very dark day in the Empire.
Yeah. It'll be weird when George goes, even though he's sort of given up control, it's still, you know what I mean? Like he's still kind of like,
he's the maker. Thank the maker.
He's still the guy. Yeah, but he's still like, almost what would George think about this kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like, and if it turns out it's like, oh, he's not there. Because I think like the guy who created Star Trek's been dead like 50 years or something, hasn't he? I don't know much about Star Trek, but I think that guy's been gone for forever.
No, I'm not. You know, it's quite funny with, you know, the whole J.J. Abrams, like, he started off the Star Trek really good. The second one was not bad. And then the third and the last few were just, sorry. They sort of fizzled out. So I shouldn't be surprised that his sort of thing fizzled out the way it did with Star Wars as well.
Yeah, but the guy who came up with Star Trek, I think he'd been gone for ages, like even not long past I think the original show. So like he never saw what it became, you know, from what it is now. Like at least George has a complete, you know, he can still see everything that it is, but there's going to be a point where it's just like, oh, this thing will, I mean, I guess that's part of the thing of selling it to Disney, isn't it? It's just like it outlives you, I suppose.
Well, it's funny how it doesn't. If you're Mike Zero, it's sort of like George Lucas is on the comeback of every sort of. He's coming back to do the George Lucas cut for The Mandalorian, Rise of Skywalker, or coming back for Episode 10.
Do you watch those videos? Did you ever subscribe? I never watched a Mike Zero. I remember I did a video for Steel once. And in there he made like a joke about Mike Zero, and I remember just like not getting it because I didn't even know who it was.
It took a while, because I mean, before there was a while I wasn't that big on the Star Wars like podcasting on YouTube scene, and you know, Mike Zero was I was like, and then it started to feel like the Daily Mail, but with lesser standards than them. Mm-hmm. So like I was just like, this is starting to be ridiculous, and he just seems to repeat himself. He says buzzwords to continually sort of hit
The algorithm.
the
Yeah.
algorithm. So, and like he just repeat the same sentence over and over. And then when I started going, oh, there's going to be a statue of Ezra Bridger in the Rise of Skywalker, and then the next week it's like, oh, there's going to be a statue of Kanan Jarrus or Mark Hamill's coming. Oh, it was just bizarre. And I started asking people around. I said, that guy's a moron. He just makes it up. He just makes up junk. He makes up 7 videos a day as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
it's just that thing. Like, it obviously makes enough money to continue to do it. Otherwise, you just wouldn't bother. You know what I mean? Like, there can't be any joy of creation in it, really.
Well, yeah, it does look like he films it in his mum's basement as well. So I can't see there being a lot of money, but whatever he's doing, I hope it keeps him happy.
Pete stacking shelves, I guess, or whatever, what else you'd be doing with your time, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. I never really thought about. I don't even know what big YouTubers get. Like I said, I was on Star Wars Explained the other day, and like they get massive numbers, and they've got like 500,000 subscribers and things. And I know when I had Molly on, I sort of just spoke around, how much work goes into it and da 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 da. And I think when I came on, you have a little chit chat before, and I was just chatting to Molly and Alex before, and because I know those guys a bit, and Alex is like, oh yeah, like this is like the 4th video that I've done today. Like I've edited 4 things and done this and got that up, and and it's completely different, because they've got to like research it and be right and do all this other thing. It's the complete opposite, where you can just sit there and go, like you said, oh, Ezra Bridger statue, that'll work, as opposed to I've got to accurately write this down and research it and then find the source thing and then source the thing and film it and find it's crazy.
What I like about Alex is his content is such good quality as well. Like he puts time, effort, there's love in it. It's sort of got a quality control factor about it. So, but he's got an obligation to bring it out because he's got so many followers. But also for him though, he probably just adds that to his sort of, because I watched that Schmodown that he did, and I was watching with my wife, and I kept up for about 11 of the first 11 questions, and she was impressed. And then he was like, "What's this clone number?" I'm like, "Oh fuck, I don't know."
Your wife just looked at you with a little bit less respect.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh,
that Molly's a lucky lady. Her husband can get it done, not like you pretender."
Exactly. Don't keep studying. You spend enough time on Star Wars.
Yeah. Look, it was cool catching up with those guys, but it was funny because Molly has her own, like they both got their own little studio set up. So like she's in a room, he's in a room. They had this like amazing. I was just on my my iMac, my Mac camera that I'm on now, and particularly I had sort of like up on some books, so it framed a bit nicely and had the collection behind and moved things. So it was a slightly interesting background and things. But they had really nice cameras set up, but they're on camera at least once a week or 2 or 3 times a week. So I'm like, yeah, invest into it, invest in your product. Me on the other hand, I'm just like, I'll bust it out. I guess I'll have a shave before I go on. That's about as close as it gets.
We're just simple guys in Australia, just having a good chat.
Oh yeah, it was just really nice to be. I mean, it's almost that funny thing of like, it's just nice to be asked, really, and it was cool, because I interact with those guys a bit, and we sort of hung at Celebration. We've done a few things, but it's not like we catch up every week or anything like that. So it was kind of like very pleasant. But I
did enjoy. Sorry, that was
yeah, man.
Was Matt Grant's comment, because you had a big 24 hours. You were all over the place. You were on Steel Wars, then on Star Wars Explained, and then I saw this tweet that just said, "This Josh guy gets around a bit." And he's gotten around a lot in the last 24 hours. So
it was so weird though, because because I think we were in lockdown at that point. And like, it's really hard to get stuff done in lockdown, as you know, even though you're home. And like, I work from home already, and I'm particularly busy at the moment at work. It's just like, I'm just like rammed. So as soon as I finish work, I've got to go get the kids and do bed and dinners and blah, 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 blah. My partner's in the same boat. We're just like scrambling to get stuff done. So sometimes the last thing you want to do is just like create more content. You just want to sit on the couch and watch AFL 360 and, and do nothing. And then, yeah, like I got asked to do the Star Wars Explained, and then like the morning before, I just got a DM from Steelers, just like, Chappie, come on the pod this morning, and I had a window, like I didn't have to start work, and because he's in LA, so the time sort of worked out. Like, yeah, all right, I'll do that. So then I just had these like 2 days where I was like everywhere, but I hadn't done any, like I hadn't reached out. I hadn't sought that out. It just happened to be at that point that they'd come out. And then I consciously was like, oh shit, well I better record an episode of the podcast because, there'll be a little bit of attention because I'll be on these things. I can't not have an episode out for weeks. So I had to tap our good old Matt Frost and say, come on the podcast, mate. We need some content.
That was a very good episode. I actually did because we recently just had Frosty on this past week come by because I was fascinated. And the funny thing was, I never heard episode 37 or whatever number it was where the song was released for the first time. I only heard him for the first time in Soft as Poo Filoni. So, I was so intrigued by this non-gushing of the Mandalorian and just this. And then when we had you on our show, I was like, have you seen him since? Has he given a liking to season 2? And it's like, we haven't had him on the pod. And then bang comes on. I get the closure I needed, and then I asked him to come on the pod, and he's like, I'd love to. And then I did my research. So I listened to those two, but then in the snippets of that one, I found out there was another one that he guested on, and I heard that one, and I was just like, wow.
Is that the one where we want to do the Muppets remake with the Star Wars characters? Is it that one?
It's the one
that might have been.
I think that might be the one before.
That might have been the one before.
But this is the one where you outed. He came out as the white man that doesn't like the Mandalorian.
Oh right,
with his song.
yeah. It was that was. I mean, that was like Matt will never tell you this, but he's a very, very talented musician and singer and everything like that. And I'm a very, very, very average musician and like hobbyist and stuff, and Matt's way better than I am. And one of the things that I did in lockdown was talk about buying new guitars and getting back into, which I talked about in your podcast. And he was just the one who was like sending me pictures of guitars and sending me this and telling me that, egging me on to buy stuff basically, which he still does. He sent me something like today of, you should buy this. And, I've got 3 new guitars that I've bought, in the last 12 months. But he did this amazing cover of "Tell Me Why I Don't Like Mondays" by Bob Geldof's band, Boomtown Rats, and he sent it into the Bad Motivators, and it was just funny because it's amazing, and the guys got the joke, but I'm 99% sure they did not know the song. Like I think they just thought that he wrote the song. Like I think that they realized it was like a Weird Al cover version kind of thing. Because Americans they just don't hear British music, I suppose. But and I was like, and I think I consciously was like, you got to come on my podcast and we can talk about it, and I'll put it on, and we can delve into this thing a little bit more.
It was fantastic, and I loved it. My wife is so sick of that song right now. Like she's like, so I was listening to the words, and then it sort of gets stuck in your head, and then I'm singing it to the kids, and I
tried to I was going to put it online. Like I said, can I put it up on because I've got a YouTube channel for the podcast. It really just puts the podcast up mostly. Occasionally there's little video stupid things on there, but not much. And he's like, yeah, whatever, put it up. And it just kept getting struck down like every time because it's just got the, even though it was for parody or whatever else, I just couldn't get it to get through the, whatever is the YouTube filter thing. So annoyingly, it got struck down again, and I got another T-shirt pulled the other day actually as well. So one that had been up for 2 years, and then it just got this random thing saying, "Hey, we've just pulled this T-shirt design down." Like,
which one was that?
It was the one that I did for Jess Schrader because it was the Minnesota Vikings one, but it's Obi-Wan instead of the Minnesota Vikings, which is really weird because it's literally just the Minnesota Vikings logo, but it's been rejigged to look like Obi-Wan. It doesn't say Star Wars, doesn't say Obi-Wan. It's completely original drawing. Like it didn't get. If anybody would be struck more down by the Minnesota Vikings, but it said like Walt Disney Company has struck this down. So it's really, I don't understand where the logic comes from. That it was kind of annoying. I was a bit annoyed. Not that it's flying off the shelves, and like the handful of people who wanted one have already got one, but it just still just annoyed me. I'm just like,
Jesus. How's the merch situation going at the moment?
Nothing's happening on the merch situation at the moment. I've actually got to suss out whether I'm going to do beanies for the Force 5, which I really should get onto actually. So I might
mental note.
find out what they're going to cost, and if I can get enough people who want to do them. If I can rally around, I know there'll be like I said, a couple of dozen people who want one. I'll do like a short order, and people can pay $20-$25 for them. We'll do it because I think it'd be a nice little thing to have for an Australian little con. I think it'll be
definitely put me and the boys down for one each.
All right. You've motivated me enough to get to get myself organised. I should really be asking you the questions, mate. It's good. I've just flipped it. You see, I've just kind of just turned it around.
Mate, I'm in lockdown, so this is social interaction that I'm craving.
I'm not talking to my wife who I'd see every 24 hours a day, or my baby who doesn't talk back. So it's all good. How you vibing, Bad Batch? Two to go, 2 down, 2 to go, 2 left.
2 to go. It's I'm enjoying it. Like, I mean, it doesn't have the same sort of feeling like the Mandalorian. It was week to week live action. It was just so exciting. Like every week, like you were just
as event television. Is it really?
It's not. It's
it's good. It's like I'll pop it on and I'm happy to watch it, but I'm not counting the days and going got to get home and.
No, and also like back when the Loki was going on, it's like it's only a 5-day wait because on Wednesdays I get Loki and I love that, and then I have to wait 2 days for my next sort of Disney injection of new content. But I'm enjoying it, and there's good episodes, there's not so great episodes, and then there some of those episodes just absolutely hit the Star Wars G spot like so well.
Mm.
Like the horny for oil off the dishes, they were just they were two of my favorites. Like,
yeah,
the one you reviewed with Molly and Alex. Like,
it was good actually because that was a good episode with a lot of sort of questions and stuff. And then I did check in on because you always like, I wonder who's on the show next week. And I think the week after it was like the one where which was I think was a fine episode, but I think everyone was expecting stuff to escalate. It was like that one where they had to go, they dropped the spice down the hole or whatever. They got to recover the spice and things, and everybody's a bit like, this is a bit nothing considering we thought it was all about to kick off. So I'm glad that because like the first thing that they were like saying, in the episode, Alex was just like, oh well, it wasn't my favorite episode. I was kind of hoping for more, and like, I'm glad I didn't get the the crappy one.
Well, mate, you are in a rich vein of form, if I recall, because I mean, you were on the Blue Harvest for the weekend of the Star Wars Disney Investor Day, which turned into
that's right.
monster show, and you've had some good luck.
Yeah, recently. That was good luck actually. Yeah, and that was just a random. That again, like that's just one of those things where like Hawes got in touch and said, "Hey, I'm doing these Mandalorian recaps. There'll be one every week. We've got 10 weeks. Can we slot you in one of these weeks?" I'm just like, yeah. Make it. We'll make it work. And it just happened to be that Disney one. So with like all that stuff got announced. So
it's funny because he was doing like an Aussie flavor month. I think he had Chris Fresh, Steele. Yep. And then you got the pick of the week.
Yeah, I got the announcement, which was very cool. Yeah, that was very lucky. And even that would have been nearly a year ago. When was that?
That would have been
November-ish, probably.
I think it was November 18 or 10 or something.
Was it that late? Was it?
I think so. I remember I had a job interview that day, and I really didn't pay attention because I was just so on the hype train for like. Is Aiden Christensen and Ewan McGregor going to fight in the battle of the century? I'm like, I wonder what that is. And he's like, so tell me about your strengths. I'm like,
I fucking fight in the battle of the century?
Attention to detail, like commitment, buzzword, Star Wars, Jedi blind power.
Hang on, was that last year or the year before? I can't remember now. It was last year, wasn't it?
It was last
Must
year.
have been.
Oh,
yeah.
wait.
We were still in, it was 2020. I just keep thinking that sometimes 2020 didn't, like, not that it didn't happen, but like nothing happened. So anything that did happen must have been the year before.
It does. That can't be right. It does feel like sometimes you just forget the date. You forget what day it is. And it's like, oh, do I have to work today? Like, oh, yep, it's a Saturday. I'm good. I'll just stay home and watch TV and not go outside.
Well, I don't think nothing that was announced we haven't seen. All the stuff that was announced in that we haven't seen yet. I think actually Star Wars Visions will be the first thing that we see that was announced from that.
Other than Bad Batch. On a Bad Batch?
It was I think the Bad Batch had been announced before that though. I have a feeling that had gotten out before that. So Obi-Wan, obviously, Andor, Acolyte, Ahsoka,
Rangers of the New Republic are gone.
Rangers of Mayhem, Lando,
Land of the musical.
Lando the musical. What else? Obviously, Rogue Squadron movie, the Taika Waititi one. So I mean, that's 7 or 8 things they announced. Like Visions is it's the only thing we'll see this year, and then they didn't even announce Boba Fett. Like they kept that under their hat for the Mandalorian stinger at the end. So all of that stuff's still sort of bubbling away in the background. Really, I don't even know what comes out first. I assume Andor because that's
It's
been filming the longest.
Visions is coming out in a few weeks.
Oh yeah, Visions will be out for Visions. But then as far as live action,
Book of Boba Fett's supposed to be like December 22 or something.
Yeah, which looks like it's going to clash with Hawkeye as well. So that's the crazy thing. Like the Hawkeye, they came this week saying Hawkeye's coming out end of November, or so. There's likely that there might be some overlap.
Well, it'd be good to have some, live action versus live action Marvel. Matt Frost is going to hate it. He's
Marvel on a Wednesday. Oh, think about all those YouTubers, all those Sith List boys who have to get up, stay up, because they get the midnight drops. So they'll be up at midnight for Hawkeye, and then up again at midnight for Book of Boba Fett.
Well, when are they both? Aren't they both dropping on? Because Disney Plus said that everything's going to happen on a Wednesday, but the movies will be on a Friday. So does that mean that
they couldn't drop Hawkeye and Book of Boba Fett on the same night, could they?
Imagine the Sith guys have to do one show reaction, then watch the next show and do the same.
And then not get spoiled from one or the other. No, they would never screw them. Would they? Would that just be Disney just being the biggest, look, big dogs going, look at us. We'll drop Boba Fett and we'll drop a Star Wars and a Marvel show, 2 of them at the same day on the same time. It's just like the Joker, breaking the stick in half. He's like, all right, go for it, you guys. Fight amongst yourselves in your household.
You have to get KO or something you put the both programs on the same screen.
I've been doing a bit of that with the Olympics being on. We had the footy on the TV. Well, we've got a big TV. We've got a 75-inch TV, so we've got the big TV had the footy on, and then I had the iPad in front watching the Matildas, I think it was, as well, going on at the same time, switching before, and then eventually I'm like, all right, I think it might have been that the game against Great Britain where they came back and won it. And I'm like, nah, this has got to go on the big TV. This is getting too close. We have to turn the footy off. This game's doing nothing. It was like Carlton St Kilda or something. Nobody cares.
No, I remember I tweeted you that night, because I saw that and I was like, oh, that's sometimes I'll be watching on a Friday, Saturday, and maybe I'll sneak a Sunday. I tend to watch the Geelong game, the Hawks game, a Bombers game, and if it's good, but I looked at the schedule, I'm like, nothing is appealing here. We watched 2 Jim Carrey movies and that Love Is Blind reunion, and I was like, oh, I got my credits now. I'm good to go. And then Saturday, I've got my chips, got my beer, I'm ready to go. I'm like, it's footy time. And then it's Jeanette Young going, there'll be no football in Queensland. And I was just like, what is happening?
No footy, yeah, they had to cancel it last minute. Yeah, so there was 5 games on Saturday to turn the footy podcast. But yeah, well, my partner, she's mad footy fan. So if the footy's on, she's quite happy to watch it, most of the time anyway. So we never really have to worry about that. And she's a Melbourne supporter, and Melbourne are flying. So she's just like, yep, I will happily watch AFL 360 every night because they might talk about Melbourne. And, I'm all down for that. But yeah, she sat through all the Star Wars, most of the Marvel stuff. She loved WandaVision. She hasn't watched Loki yet. And that was really just because the night Loki came out, I was just going, and she had to do some work or something. I said, I've got to watch this. I'm sorry. You're welcome to catch up in your own time and watch it with me later on. But I've got to watch this now. Otherwise, it's just because it's the spoil factor. Someone's just going to spoil it.
I think, when you follow the people that we follow on Twitter, there's just, if they like a comment or someone, comments about a spoiler, then all of a sudden it's on the screen and you see the threads, and then it doesn't take a lot to spoil things. Yeah,
even if it's sort of trying to be cryptic or trying to dance around it, and it's just, it just happens. I mean, that's the thing. At least with the Star Wars Disney Plus stuff, it's great because it comes out, that evening. So it's pretty easy to stay off. If you need to stay off social media for an hour before it starts, it's easy. I can do that. It's not sort of, and even like when like Rise of Skywalker and those movies and stuff came out, at least we were getting those a couple of days before, so it was actually pretty easy to stay away from spoilers. Because like I don't know what you do with when the movies come out. Do you sort of like put the phone away for a couple of days, or?
I've been to every single. I organise the midnight screenings, and I've actually tried to get like access to the premieres, like the the ones where like the guys from Home and Away go to, and like those closet Star Wars fans who are just there for the Instagram photo.
The photo op. Do they still do those will they do those in Australia for Star Wars? Does it just depend?
What's funny, like I actually managed to get tickets to Solo. They Disney didn't have a big budget for premieres, but like they did a huge one for The Force Awakens.
Yep.
And then The Last Jedi just went to the midnight one, but they did sort of like the X-Wing at the cinema at Fox Studios. And then they had a small budget for Solo, and I managed to get into that because I had a friend in the media, and funnily enough, I found like there was like some couple of maths fighting at my shopping center, and I took a photo and sent it to her, and she turned it into some article about something, and then as a thank you, she gave me 2 Solos deals. I'm like, well, never been more happy for an invasion of privacy.
Of a couple of low-level reality stars arguing in a shopping center.
I don't even think they were arguing, but she pretended like they were. I think they were just discussing an orange or some sort of recipe. I said, "Oh yeah, they were fighting. The marriage is off."
Oh dear. Did you go to that Force Awakens event that was in Sydney, the one that Harrison Ford turned up at?
No, I'm just trying. I remember that like I was like knee deep in like work, and it was literally like 500 meters down the road at the Opera House, and if I had known, I would have just made any excuse to be down there. Steele was bloody interviewing Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
No, I wish I'd been there. I mean, I remember going to the midnight session, but yeah, in the few days before that, like I remember just the hype around the Force Awakens. It was fever pitch. It was bigger than anything ever, I reckon.
Yeah, I always try to like compare it to Phantom Menace, and I think the difference was like Phantom Menace, like I did midnight for Phantom Menace, but I just took my mates, my mates who like Star Wars, but it's not the same as like we went to the one down here at the midnight down at Knox, and Steele had his event on and things. So there was like a whole bunch of like Steel Wars people there, as well as like I brought some mates along, and also there was just like the general, like I think Star Wars, he might have been there. So there was all that, it was all that sort of, it felt like an event kind of thing more than like just going to the cinema at midnight, even though that was pretty exciting for Phantom Menace. But it was a different thing, like it was definitely, the vibe was definitely different. And, they did like the midnight show and stuff after Force Awakens and things. So, you're out till like 4 a.m. or whatever. And yeah. I knew for sure that I really liked Force Awakens. I remember coming out of Phantom Menace going, yeah, it's good. Yep. That was good. That was worth the wait, and, like I like Phantom Menace now, but.
Oh, really?
And I think I saw Phantom. I think Phantom Menace is still the Star Wars movie I've seen at the cinema most times. I think I saw Phantom Menace 9 or 10 times at the cinema.
Yeah, I think I saw The Last Jedi more than anything. I think I saw it like 11 times, and not because I was like, do I like this? Like, I loved it, and like it got better and better every time I watched it. I was like, missed that. And my friend was like, I love it. No, I don't like it anymore. Goes on Reddit. Found more things that I don't like. It's like, no, you didn't. And then and then people are like, no, I'm not happy with it. Like, just keep going. I'll keep going back, and you'll keep liking it. And then, yeah, I think I saw it 10 times in the cinema, and then once at this like sort of outdoor cinema, like 4 months later. When you can, it's like summer days, and like you get something like Cabana.
I hate it. I think that one of those things, they always say like, what's the thing that people think that you would love that you actually hate? And I'm always like outdoor cinemas, like moonlight cinemas. I hate them. They're always like sounds crap, pitch is crap, it's uncomfortable sitting on the floor. People are rustling. People sitting on a blanket. Never had a good experience at an outdoor cinema.
Mosquitoes, like who thinks that mosquitoes and cinema are two things that go hand in hand? Like,
I remember I went to an outdoor cinema event in London, and it was Donnie Darko,
Ugh.
and perfectly fine movie. And I remember like for whatever reason, like there was all this like introduction stuff, and I don't think it was the director was there, or maybe he got piped in by video or whatever. But they had, for some reason, they had like the guy who composed or wrote or sang on the song like Mad World. That's like the song that's like the Donny like all around me.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, like he talked about the song and then he just like sang it on the microphone on the thing, like pretty much just by himself for however long the song goes for, like 3 or 4 minutes, and we were all just like sitting around like waiting for Donnie Darko to start.
This is so creepy and uncomfortable.
It was so weird, and this is like after half an hour of like bullshit that had just like chitter chatter before the movie started.
Play the movie.
It was a bit like that, and I just remember it's just outdoor cinemas. Not happy. Don't like them. Like being in a nice temperature-controlled room in a comfy chair
with
like,
the stereo blaring. Like, I want to hear the speaker. Like, I want the wind from the speaker blow my hair.
Yeah, there's a new cinema that's open just up down the road from me actually, and it's good. Like, it's like all recliners. It's a brand new room. The rooms are quite small, so the screen's quite close, but like the seats are really good. And I haven't gone. I'm going to go see Suicide Squad this weekend. I think that'll be my get out of lockdown cinema experience.
Well, I think the first ever cinema I went to was actually in Melbourne. I used to live in Melbourne.
Yeah, where did you live in Melbourne?
I lived in Toorak, but like the dodgy side of Toorak, next to the train station.
The dodgy side of Toorak.
Not in the giant mansions like next to Solomon Lou and stuff, but like. It was like
hood, in the hood part of Toorak,
right next to the public school. So like I was like 10 seconds from my school. Like it literally, the school ends and my house started, sort of thing. It was like this little house on the corner. But my grandma took me to like Mrs. Doubtfire at Ferntree Gully Cinemas. Like back in like when it first came out.
Surprisingly depressing film that too, Mrs. Doubtfire. People forget like it's got a really depressing end. Like he kind of gets outed as Mrs. Doubtfire, and there's a whole bit where they take his kids away for like months, and they have this whole argument about it. And then I think at the very, very end, he gets to kind of go back and see his kids and stuff. But it's actually like quite a grim drama at the end of Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, from what I remember, like, he obviously fails to pull it off, but then he gets the TV show. And then but that's the only way he can see his kids, because like they go to court. Like after he gets busted, they take him back to court and stuff for like breaching his. I thought she got full custody, but then like I should have like they sort of inferred that once he became a successful TV person, he sort of may have got
he could do what he likes,
put them back or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I'd have to rewatch it. I just remember it's not the total screwball comedy that. Yeah, there you go, Mrs. Doubtfire. Which cinema was that?
Ferntree Gully.
Oh, right. But that's not even close to Toorak. That's like miles away.
I don't know. My grandma took me. This is when she was driving. I was like 7. I was like, want to see this movie? I'm like, sure. It's a guy who dresses up as an old lady. It sounds great.
I think the first movie I ever saw was at the drive-in. I think it was E.T. was the first movie I saw. I saw Return of the Jedi in the cinema.
No.
But maybe I must have seen E.T. came out before. Didn't E.T. come out before Return of the Jedi? No. What year is E.T.?
It was 1984, if I remember correctly.
So I must have seen
E.T. No, 1982.
82,
so
yeah.
That would have been the same. Oh no, that's just before Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. So I saw that at the Leongatha drive-in, which is no longer there. Although the funny bit of trivia is that my parents now own that site, the drive-in site. They bought the land quite recently, actually, because they want to move their shop out there because it's on the highway. And I'm like, I remember Dad telling me like, oh yes, we bought the drive-in site. I'm like, way to do that. 35 years too late when we could have had, I could have been a kid whose parents owned the local drive-in.
I could have watched E.T. for free.
Yeah, I could have watched E.T. for free, listening on a really tiny, crappy speaker.
I only watched E.T. again for the first time in 25 years. It hasn't sort of like come back on the rewatch list, but me and my missus, we watched it. And I didn't even pick up on the Star Wars sort of like homage to Yoda in that movie the first time I saw it, because I was just like,
I haven't seen it in years either.
I wasn't a Star Wars fan as a child. I only got into it when Special Edition came out. And
Right.
someone took me to it, and I'm like, "Fuck, this is awesome!" And he's like, "I'm like, when's the next one come out?"
I
He's like,
wasted my life.
No, I did a good job of that. After that, from that point onwards, I've done
Yeah.
I've done enough to spend.
I'm gonna
38.
waste my life.
I'm going to buy toys in the age 35.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, I can't wait for Empire Strikes Back to come out in 2 weeks." And he's like, "Dude, it's already out on video. Like, this is special edition of that movie." I'm like, "So I can go home and watch more Star Wars?" Like, "Yes." I'm like, "Great, I'll see you later." Straight to Blockbuster.
Oh, nice.
And I was just like, oh, from
Should
that
have
moment,
just waited 2 more weeks and watched it at the cinema, though.
I went back for the special edition because I mean, that's the thing. Watching it for the first time in the cinema is just, we were talking about with Frosty this, like, for years you would have seen it on TV, and TV is a good experience, but I watched back to when the lockdown came out and there was nothing on TV, nothing in the cinemas, like there was no movies being made. They sort of just went back to the past, and I saw Back to the Future. I saw Force Awakens, A New Hope. Then, because you saw A New Hope, you have to watch Empire, and seeing all these on the big screen, on that massive screen with the great sound system is just, it's just unparalleled.
Yeah.
You can't replicate. I mean, I've got an 85-inch TV, and
Jesus.
but it doesn't compare to a cinema. Like, it's good for home viewings.
Oh yeah, look, I love going to I don't get to go as much as I used to, but I used to go for years. I go every week without fail when I was first in Melbourne. Then when I moved to London, I'd go most weeks, and then when I lived in London, they built a cinema across the road from where I lived in London, so I would just go all the time. I just go see anything, because when I was contracting and I have time during the day, sometimes you just go the midday session and it ends up being like £3 to go to the movies. I'm like, great, I'll just go whatever's on, whatever. I'm happy to do that. But I haven't seen E.T. You never see it on, like, you just never see it on TV. Like, a lot of times, all those sort of other movies, I'll just, not that I barely watch regular TV anyway, but every now and then you're just flicking around and you're like, oh, I'll catch the second half of Jurassic Park or whatever, but never see E.T. on like Channel 9 or anything, like just sort of on.
No, it doesn't get the free-to-air run. It's on Stan.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so give it a run because it's I thoroughly enjoyed. Like,
it's pretty good. You're like, this Spielberg guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I reckon I'm pitching big things for this guy. Yeah.
I don't know. I keep thinking about that new Indiana Jones. I'm going, is it going to be the same without Spielberg? But I reckon the template has been set. I think that you can make a good Indiana Jones movie. I think by setting the template that's been set without Spielberg. I mean, I'm sure he'll be involved in one way or another. But
did you enjoy the Crystal
Harrison? Yeah, I didn't mind it. It's got a lot of good bits in it. It's not as a whole. It's got a few shonky things. It's definitely got too much CG and all that kind of stuff. And but
Commander Price from Rebels.
Yeah, but it's fine. I'm glad it exists. I'd rather watch it and think it's fine than it not exist. You know what I mean? Like, I have a feeling this new one's actually going to be pretty good. Because I think it's sort of fresh eyes, and there'll be a lot of the people who are involved will really want to make it good. And James Mangold's a good director, and I think Harrison's up for one more turnaround.
But it's been delayed again, I think, because
I think he got hurt again.
He got injured. Like, I think he bruises like a peach now, just between you and me.
Well, he's nearly 80, isn't he? He's got to be in his 70s. Like,
stop doing stunts, dude. Like, okay, you've done everything. You've been Blade Runner. You've been Harrison Ford. You've been Han Solo, Indiana Jones. Jack Ryan.
Prove, mate.
Like, just let someone else do it and bring the movie out. Like,
yeah, just stay in the mid shot, Harrison. Stay there. Anything further away, we could literally CG your face onto anybody else. It's the easiest. It's the most perfect time for you to do the least amount. You don't even need to.
I remember a good Harrison Ford. Because remember when Solo came out and everyone was like, Alden Ehrenreich, are we sure? And there's someone tweeted out saying, listen, if Harrison Ford played Han Solo in the current as a prequel, we would just pretend like we're okay with it the whole time and just pretend that it doesn't look ridiculous.
So it was like Harrison Ford, like 75-year-old Harrison Ford, but like with like, great, like washing his hair, like that sort of just for men. But
Hmm.
it's always not, it never quite looks right. It always looks kind of like burgundy or whatever.
Like I think it was like in Breaking Bad where they had the Salamanca guy, the old guy, and then they just sort of like try to young him up with some that shoe polish hair,
Yeah.
and he still had like that old man neck and stuff.
So there's a bit of that, and they've just caked like makeup on Harrison Ford's face. They just like put layers and layers of makeup to try and make him look like he's 20.
And we would just pretend like we're okay with it, like say, oh look, you know
I'm
what?
buying it. I'm
Yep.
buying it. But everybody else is young. Like Donald Glover's still there, and he's trying to hit on what's her name, Emilia Clarke or whatever. It's
Era.
like wow, it's 75-year-old Harrison Ford still trying to pull the moves and things.
I'd be on board for that.
They should have just done that. Maybe that's what they actually did with that original cut. That they had to fire those Lord and Miller guys. They're like, the problem was that it wasn't sort of terrible. It was actually we just decided we secretly got Harrison Ford in. There's just another cut of the movie where it's 80-year-old Harrison Ford playing it, and no one will ever see it.
I think you touched on it before. I would love to see what was so bad that they got the can for. Because
I like all that kind of stuff because with like Suicide Squad that's coming out, this weekend, and I really don't like that other Suicide Squad movie. I think it's pretty crappy, but David Ayer, who made the original, he said, that's not my card. I've got another card. It's different. Blah 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 blah. I always find that stuff fascinating. Like I'm just like, yeah, just show it. Like why not? Like like the Snyder Cut stuff. I know that had a lot of vitriol and stuff on it, but I was just like, I'm just happy to see the differences. I get really that's why that sort of Star Wars Revisited thing's really interesting. I just like seeing the differences and the comparisons and things, especially something you kind of know really well. So I'm like, just show me. Like who cares? Like, who cares? Just put on Disney Plus. Put the Lord and Miller cut on. Like, just do it. Like,
don't you remember when there was Rise of Skywalker and there was those rumors that there was a J.J. Abrams cut, there was a Bob Iger cut, and then there was the George Lucas cut, and like each one got a little bit better, and George Lucas was like finishing it off, like made it amazing, and like back then when there was movie rumors and scoops and Kessel Run transmission going ballistic.
Oh yeah, poor old Kessel Run transmission guys. Shout out to Corey and Noah and Claire wherever you are. Hope you're all doing well.
Always in our thoughts.
Yeah, well, they're not dead. They're just doing their own thing.
True.
It's just Star Wars YouTube. It's not that important. God, we just burnt through time, mate. This is what always happens here. So let's just, before we round off home here, like what do you look like? Book of Boba Fett you're all about this year? Is this the big thing you're looking forward to?
Yeah,
Are you a Boba Fett guy?
I'm not a Boba Fett like. Well, like, if 0 is 0 and then 10 is like Horst Burkhardt, I'd say I'm a 7. Like, I mean, I love the character. I feel like he's been so enhanced and given a new lease on life as well. Like, because I mean, everyone's like, oh, he's so overrated. He fell in the Sarlacc and that was it. Like, he had 11 lines, and that Mark Anthony Austin or whatever. He's like, he was Boba Fett for 10 seconds and he's sort of made that his Twitter life for the next 20 years. But I thought Tem was just fantastic in The Mandalorian, and he did exactly what he did. That he sort of rebooted the character, and they can now
he basically gave it the gravitas it never had.
The je ne sais quoi the Boba Fett needed, and because I mean, if you put out a Boba Fett show and a Mandalorian show at the beginning, it would just be like, what's going on here? Are they the same person? Is it the same story? But now Mando's got his story and, his heading. And then we've reintroduced Boba Fett. They've got different ideals, same sort of armor. But, we can sort of, all right, let's follow this. And, I mean, I wasn't asking for it, but I'm so pumped for it. I mean, I hope to God we get all the bounty hunters back. Are we going to see Jabba's palace revisited and, that sort of being rebuilt? I mean, I read the tales from Jabba's palace in the card games, and every alien in that place was trying to kill Jabba. Like, so
yeah,
it's going to be interesting. Like, what kind of show is going to be though? Like, is it, is Cobb Vanth going to be in there? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether it's like a gang thing or if it's like is this the start? Like, is it? is it like, do we pick up where we left off, or is that sort of like an end point? Is there a whole bunch of jumping points we're going to see to where he gets on the throne? Did we go back? Does he have a bunch of flashbacks? I feel like the Book of Boba Fett implies that there's chapters, so there will be bits that'll sort of fill in blanks and stuff. Like, I'm sure we'll see him get spat out of the Sarlacc and all that. Excuse me, all those sort of things. And but yeah, it's cool. Like, I like not knowing. Like, I'm happy to go in and sort of go along with the ride, really. And hey, man, more Star Wars. So, like, bring it on. It's Star Wars TV shows. It's not like we have to scratch around for movies every 3 or 4 years now. Like, we get hours and hours of quality content a year now, and we're only going to get more. So, we might be getting a Marvel show on the same day as well. So,
I know. I mean, if ever there was a time to be in lockdown, it's now. I actually haven't watched a Star Wars movie in quite some time, because the content is so good. I mean, I watched I made an effort every time I got up at 5 o'clock for my son to feed him and then play with him and put him back to sleep. I'd watch Clone Wars in the sort of down period, and it took me 3.5 months to get from season 1 to the end of season 7, and at the end, like, I was loving it. It was just so good to go back. And it's been a while since I've seen a movie, but I feel like I need to throw one in the mix every now and then. You got to watch at least one Star Wars movie a month, just to keep the quotes flowing and the hard drive in your head solid.
So here's a hypothetical for you before we head off. So let's just say that you could have Book of Boba Fett come out in November.
Yep.
But you have to stay in lockdown till November. Would you take it?
Wait a second.
So let's just say November 1st you can watch Book of Boba Fett.
Yep.
But you have to be in lockdown from now until the 1st of November.
I think we're going to be in lockdown till November anyway. So,
You're like, yeah, how's that going to change?
Done.
I'll take it.
100%.
Maybe I should have prefaced that with like, well, if you were getting out a month earlier, would you take a month of extra lockdown to get Book of Boba Fett a month earlier?
Am I getting a binge like all 8 editions?
Yeah, you know what, you can have them. Yeah.
You know what? And like the worst thing was, I wouldn't like sort of like go them out piecemeal and sort of divvy them up so that I could sort of spread out the enjoyment. I would just go bang in 8 hours, just done. And then
and then you get to leave lockdown. So you get it, and then once you finish watching it, you can go outside.
I would be out November 1 mid-afternoon.
Lunchtime. Nicely done. Thanks for doing this, mate. I appreciate it. I know, you say, I'm not doing anything, I'm just at home, but it is, it can be hard to carve out time, especially with little ones. But tell everybody about your podcast, your boys, and what you're all about.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. No, it's been great to come on. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and you do hold the record for the most listened to episode of our podcast. So we're 3 men and a Baby Yoda podcast. We were born in lockdown, so to speak. So we started in around the Ahsoka episode of season 2 Amanda. We're like, this is just so good. We've been talking about it for months and months, and then we finally... Actually, I reached out to you as well. I remember I said, thinking about starting a podcast. He's like, yeah, get a name, get some content, just start building your formula.
Just make sure no one else has got the name. And you did that. You did that pretty well.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I was like, what am I going to do? Because Blue Harvest is taken, and this and this, and then me and Callan were spitballing, and they're like, 3 men and a baby. I think we watched it with my wife, and then it's like 3 men and a Baby Yoda. Has anyone typed it in? Not even taken. I was like, done. So, yeah, my podcast is me, my buddy Callan, and Dylan, and we catch up probably every fortnight, sometimes a weekly, and but 2 of us have young families, and Dylan is our resident young and sort of
living the dream,
guy that we sort of I don't know. I wouldn't say gaslight, but come down pretty hard on when he has a pretty bad theory. But no, it's just some really good banter, and I absolutely love it. It's just such a great hobby and pastime, and we get to communicate with some really great people in the community, Star Wars community, the positive, not so negative, opinionated ones, and it's just a great avenue to talk more Star Wars. I mean, I never get tired of talking Star Wars. I could keep going another hour.
I know. I always keep it to an hour, though. And I always kind of go, oh, man, we could always just keep going. But I'm like, every time I go a little bit over, we're like, you went over. I checked to see whether you get it under an hour. I think we might go slightly over, but we'll let it ride. Usually Turbo comes in, he's always just like, I see you went a little bit over on that one there. I'm just like, yeah, well, I don't do much editing. I just keep it all. It's all gold.
Frosty did say that you're a one and done man. There's no editing. It's just bang straight on.
Yeah, not unless we really screw the pooch, but that rarely that rarely happens. Especially when I do it with Matt. We've got a pretty good thing going on, and we know the drill. And we get back to our lives. But thanks so much for coming on, mate. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch up proper hopefully at Force 5 later in the year, and kick around the real world, which would be cool. And thanks everybody for hanging around with the pod. Like I said, lockdown makes things weird. You just get them when you get them. But thanks to anybody who's downloaded, who's jumped on since I was on Star Wars Explained. There's been a little bit of a spike, which is always nice. But hope you hang around and come say hi and all those kind of things. So, thanks again, buddy.
My pleasure, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I loved every minute.
Cool. I'll see you soon.
May the Force be with you.